Again, I was saying that in order to produce, humans must cooperate. Now, there are two features of cooperation. Cooperation was that is the birth of language. In order to cooperate, human beings must communicate. So communication is born in the process of production. Who cooperation also needs social regulation. So that's where
norms values.
this is the difference. Mainstream sociology always talks of norms and values. Have you read Durkheim? Have you read Durkheim? What according to Durkheim is the subject matter of sociology?
Social facts.
What are social facts?
They are things, they are data which you interpret. He says basically social facts are things, they are data.
Fine. They have those three characteristics. They are objective, they are external, they constrain. Yes, that's fine. What does he include in social facts?
The values, cultural norms.
Collective representations.
Yes.
Collective representations. Where do those collective representations come from? That is absent, that is muted there. He never visits that side. This is an example what I was telling you, that sociology starts somewhere in the middle. It has no root, it has no top, no bottom, it is suspended in the middle. As a result, you know, I told you sociology was born in 1848, beginning with 1838 as social physics. In 1848 it became sociology, but 1848 to 2015. Can you calculate how many years are there? How many 100 years and 52 years and 15 years, which is 7 years, 167 years. But you open any textbook of sociology, you will hear, oh, it is a young science, it is infant science, it is a baby. This baby is because baby has a birth defect, and the birth defect of baby is that it studies values and norms without their social context. Where do values and norms come? Here is what political economy does. Political economy tells us that values, norms, communication, including symbols. Because, you know, again, I don't have time to talk to all about it, but you know that according to many sociologists, here Bourdieu and all that, social word is symbolic word. Yes, social word is symbolic word. Where do symbols come from? Where does the language come from? Where does the language come? How did language originate? Language originated in the process of production. It originated for sake of cooperation. Without cooperation, without production, there will be. Without production, there will be. In order to just survive, we have to produce. In order to produce, we have to cooperate. In order to cooperate, we have to have language. So language, communication, symbols, they are born in the process of production. That is why the primacy of production, hence the primacy of production. And from there we go to other things about society. Okay. So what we have established so far is the process of production and the big topic. Okay. So that's lesson number 1. Now, there are 3 main features of political economy. Other than so far, 3 main features of political economy. 3 Now listen to this carefully, because this is where the question. This is where the whole question of vulgar Marxism or vulgarization Marxism comes from, and we will talk about this problem throughout the course, vulgarization or vulgar Marxism. Three main features of political economy. Okay. These features are: one, materialist. The idea of materialist is very simple. Role of material conditions in human life, the role of material conditions in social life. The role of material, because as we said, everything that human beings need for their subsistence, they get from nature. So nature and so material conditions include material conditions include natural conditions or natural resources and tools. There is another very important material condition. I'll talk to you about that later. Okay. So it incorporates material conditions, and what is the most important resource? That is all material conditions. So again, political economy has three features. One, it is materialist. It includes material conditions, what we get from nature, and tools that we make. Now the mediation between material conditions and tools of human labor. So most important material condition in human labor itself, or material resource, is human labor itself. Two. So again, political economy is materialist. This is feature number one. Means it always takes into consideration the material conditions and human beings. Material conditions and human beings. In that sense, two.
He should be somebody. You can't type so fast.
Approach is to look at a particular item as part of a system.
What are the observations?
To look at the system as a whole. To look at the system as a whole. Okay. So, okay, first feature, First, the materialist dialectical seeing the system as a whole.
और हम ब्रेक नहीं
Two,
आप
okay, that is the meaning of whole. Then system as constantly changing. System as constantly changing. Internal contradictions. That system, that looking at society as a whole, economic, political, and ideological, and that system is constantly changing, and again, of what is in human beings and nature, and human beings by school, but dead labor means by the application of labor. So the application of labor to their natural circumstances. It is in that process that society is on. It is in that process that society keeps on constantly changing. So the most important change, most important agent of making society, changing society is nothing but human labor itself. That human labor which they do in cooperation with other human beings, it is in that process that language is born. It is in that process of keeping the cooperation alive that social rules, regulations, norms, values that sociology talks about, they are all born in that process. And they keep on changing as modification, level of modification changes, nature of tools and techniques changes, of labor changes, society keeps on changing. So the principal source of change lies within society. This is the meaning of that. That the principal source of change is internal. It lies within society. Now, when we talk of internal contradiction, there are two types of contradictions that we talk about. One, the contradiction between nature and human beings. You remember that was our starting point, the contradiction between human beings and nature. Because nature in its natural form is not amenable to human beings. So human beings must interfere with nature to modify. So that is a contradiction between, and it is a result of, in an attempt to resolve this contradiction, that human beings are modifying, keeping, and as they keep on changing nature, their own nature keeps on changing. Human beings have no fixed nature. That's why sometimes when you are told that, oh, it's do anything, actually you cannot imagine anything which human beings do naturally. Take the most obvious example, eating. Most basic need of human beings is as you know, food. You must eat. But if you look at the process of eating, the process of getting food, and other things that human never eat, human beings, how well is trapped by social and cultural. So whether it is eating, whether it is food, sex, shelter, whatever the basic needs, the most basic needs of human, none of that is actually natural. Everything is. That's why finding a natural human being is an impossibility, because you are not human being in nature. You are human being in society. Everything that human beings is governed by society. I mean, governed by this process that brings society into being, and that primacy, that fundamental fact you must keep in mind. So the source of change is internal. So when we talk about internal contradictions, we mean the contradiction between human beings and nature. That's one contradiction. Then another and more serious and really critical contradiction with the social and social contradiction, which is the source of change, and we will talk about that while talking about transition from feudalism to capitalism, while talking about the internal dynamics of capitalism, which is the main problem that we have to discuss here. We will talk about this social. Can you guess what is this social contradiction, which is internal, which becomes the principal source of change? What is that internal contradiction? What is the internal contradiction, social contradiction? And it emerges at a particular stage of social development. It was absent in the beginning, but it develops at some stage, later stage. We'll talk about that. Can you guess what I'm talking about?
Class conflict.
The production process from farming, competition.
Okay. Where does the contradiction come from?
The competition for resource allocation or
okay, here's my question. Do you think in all human societies throughout history, human beings competed for resources?
no,
Not at the beginning.
not when it was a communitarian task, not when they involved in group activities.
Exactly. The starting point of humanity was not competition, was not inequality. The starting point of humanity was cooperation and equality. It was sharing. It was discouragement to accumulation. But then comes a stage when cooperation is turned into competition and conflict. You know what created that? Do you know that what was? Yeah?
Family, domestication of animals.
No, domestication of animals did not create that. You are coming pretty close, but no.
Increase in population.
Beg your pardon?
Increase in population.
No, increasing population, no, by itself, no.
Basically,
Population by no.
the society, like the Durkheim talked about how the society moved from a traditional society to a modern society. So basically, moving from that communal whole into a larger society. And
Yeah, you know that's thank you very much. That's absolutely brilliant. You know, this is the problem with traditional and modern. This is most ambiguous and misleading term. Not all traditional societies are so-called traditional. Okay, will you give me an example of a traditional society? Was feudalism or a system in medieval times was traditional or modern?
so can you repeat?
Okay, was medieval times traditional or modern? Medieval times, Middle Ages, will you call it modern or traditional? Okay, what about, say, Mauryan Empire, that period, was it traditional or modern?
Modern.
It has elements of
Mauryan
both.
Empire was modern?
Yeah, according to them, it would be modern in their timeline. When we compared to
Comparatively,
comparatively to the
comparatively, if we look at it.
No, I'm talking of the existing dichotomy of traditional and modern.
yeah, then that would be traditional.
That will be traditional, but that traditional society is very different Greek and Roman empires are very different from hunter-gatherer society. So when you lump in traditional, the antiquity, hunters-gatherers are egalitarian societies and feudal societies as traditional, you mess up everything. You get my point?
Yes.
Mess up everything. You have to make a distinction in them. Because the nature of society, the value system, the kind of human beings who lived in these societies, so-called traditional, it differed. The value system of hunters-gatherers society, pastoral society, and in-between society was very different from the society of Greek and Roman empires or Mauryan empires. You know, this whole idea, what you understand in terms of caste system, caste did not exist in Vedic times. In Rig Vedic times, you are always told that varnas were created from 4 body parts of God. That's a pretty good example of what I was telling you, that society is not created by God, and caste did not come out of the mouth or other parts of God. Caste was created in the process of production, that development of production. But if you go to Rig Vedic period, all descriptions of Rig Vedic period will tell you that there was no room for the creation of an institution like caste. Similarly, there was no possibility of a class society in egalitarianism. Roman Empire was a class society, and if we have time, we will talk about that. What happens to human beings when they transition from the first stage, which is the egalitarian stage, in which there was no private property in the means of production. What it does to human beings. The same human beings, when society was underdeveloped, when society was relatively less developed, when society was backward, the same human beings were considered as autonomous, independent, full human beings. But they are turned into slaves, and slave, which is the starting point of civilization in the world, ancient Rome, ancient societies were based on slavery, and slaves were considered as speaking food, as speaking. The only difference between animals and slaves was that animals were called non-speaking tools of production, slaves were called speaking tools of production. My question to you is this: what turns humans into animals? When society becomes civilized, when we pass from barbarism to civilization, human beings, or a section of human beings, were turned into less than human beings. That is basic question of sociology. That is a basic question of norms and values, and those norms and values they developed in the process of production. They developed in the process of production, and how they developed, we are going to see that what makes one human being less important than other human being. The answer to that lies in social relations of production, which we are going to start with. So what are social relations of production? What is the let me just come there, and I'll come back to you. Okay. So we talk about the principal contradiction, and I'll come back to principal contradiction again. So, okay. So it has 3 elements: system as a whole, system as constantly changing, because of internal contradictions of the system, and as society moved from egalitarian phase, the principal contradiction, internal contradiction, is the contradiction of class, contradiction of class. But before I go there, third step of political economy is historical. And historical, very simple.
दूर वो छोड़ेगा इतना जल्दी? ठंड में बर्फ में उसको उठा के लाया अपने घर से,
लेकिन मिसमैच हो गया ना हम लोग के लिए।
कौन आएगा? सुबह सुबह आया
हम लोग के लिए।
Once again, he said that political economy has three features. It is dialectic, it is materialist, it is dialectical, and it is historical. Means, and the meaning of historical is, and that's what unfortunately you missed, but do read Eric Hobsbawm. Historical in political economy means history of social relations. History of social relations. Social relations which human beings forge in the process of production. Those social relations unchanging. And human history is nothing but the history of changing social relations. History of changing social relations in the process of production. Changing social relations in the process of production. It will become more clear when I'm going to discuss the next concept. And again, the most abused concept perhaps in human history is the concept that I'm going to talk about.
next.